revitalizing the spirit, restoring our community. Urban Family Talk.
But Abe, initially we wanted to have you come back kind of as a response to maybe some confusion that was still out there surrounding our interview with the gentleman who was running for
Mr. Michael Futrell.
Futrell. Thank you so much.
From Virginia. Delegate?
Delegate to the State House.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Virginia.
Just right off out of the gate, Abe, what were some of the things that kind of jumped out at you that you were like, oh man, wanted to kind of go a little bit deeper, but also wanted to clear up some confusion for our listeners?
Oh boy. I had to keep
know.
from jumping through this microphone.
I know.
Because I wanted to let the brother speak, but
sure.
Man. So right off the bat, the notions of socialism,
yes.
his big thing was single payer, and you notice they say health care and convey that as if it is synonymous with health insurance.
Okay, very good. You made that distinction.
Yeah, those things are not the same thing, because when you think health care, it sounds much more flowery. Well, of course, everyone wants to have good health, but the question then becomes, is it the government's responsibility to ensure your good health? And then beyond that, is it the government's responsibility to provide you with health insurance? And you astutely brought up the observation, does our Constitution guarantee that as a right? No.
Come on.
It doesn't. And socialism sounds cute. It sounds fluffy. It sounds lovable, huggable, and careable until you do what he did not want to do. You notice when I asked him about numbers, he said, well, let's not worry about too much about the numbers.
Yes, he did say that, Abe, and you said we have to. We have to worry about
the numbers.
No, it's just a minor detail.
Yeah, it's just a minor detail. Point number one, it sounds great, but you will always run out of money. Let's do a little bit of the numbers. To implement what Bernie Sanders wants to implement, he would add $18 trillion.
Add 18?
Add 18 with a T, not a B.
So it was already
$18 trillion to an already out of balance budget.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
18 trillion.
Wow.
Because it would require the expansion of Medicaid and Medicare to all American citizens. We can't even afford the ones we have now.
That's right.
It would expand that. And when you ask the question about budgeting to get a bigger home, the first thing he start talking about is cutting back on bills.
That's right. Yep, he did.
But why can't that same understanding apply to the federal government?
Well,
Bernie doesn't want to come back on anything.
No.
And he wants to add everything.
Yeah.
If you tax the wealthiest Americans up to 50% of their income for federal income taxes, that's the highest tax rate right now is right about 39%.
Man, 50%.
Actually about 35% now. Tax them at 50%. You will only add a couple $100 billion to the budget. Now, what we have in America is not a tax revenue problem. We have a spending problem. I highlighted this before, that America routinely collects between $2.8 and $3.3 trillion every year in taxes.
Oh my goodness.
Every year.
Every year.
Every year.
Wow.
Every year. Every year. But we maintain a deficit because we spend 3.5 upwards towards $4 trillion every year.
The normal family, Abe, if looking at their budget, now, of course, we'd have to take off some zeros for the normal family. But if you were looking at your budget and you'd say, man, we actually bring home a lot of money. Ain't no reason why we should be in debt. You would immediately say there's poor management of the funds.
Bingo. And there you have the culprit. And I posted a graphic like this on Facebook. So if anybody want to find me on Facebook, I'm there. I'm slow to the social media thing because I personally really don't like it, but I do it to connect with the people. All right.
To the people.
Do the people want the connection on social media? Do the people want the connection? So Abraham Hamilton III, everybody.
Yeah, you can catch up with me there. But here, I posted a graphic. You say, for example, United States tax revenue, $2.1 trillion revenue, but a federal budget, $3.8 trillion. New debt, $1.6 trillion. National debt, $14.2 trillion. Recent budget cuts, $38.5 billion, right? Now, just take those zeros away and bring it down to a household budgetary analysis. Annual family income, $21,700. Money the family spent, $38,200. New debt on the credit card, $16,500. Outstanding balance on the credit card, $142,710. Total budget cuts that the politicians are proud of, $385. Now, I know you can't grasp that by me just saying it because I know we're on radio, but when you start talking about applying the same economic rationale to the federal government that we would apply in our homes, everybody would stand up and say, man, that don't make no sense. How can we be collecting all these trillions of dollars and still remain in hundreds of billions of dollars in deficits and debts? Because we are outspending our collections. We're spending. We have a spending problem. It's not a revenue problem. And what Bernie is getting people to feel a burn on is he's promising something called quote unquote free stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as free stuff. Somebody is paying for it.
That's right.
What he's advocating for is the systematic confiscation of what they call the wealthy, their money, to add to the public coffers to pay for what they would call the poor. Now, one of the interesting things about the Affordable Care Act, because one of the things, and Obamacare is what is more commonly referred to, one of the things that was promised with Obamacare was that everybody would have insurance, right?
Yep.
Everybody still don't have insurance.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody still doesn't have insurance. But the only difference now is if you don't have insurance, they're going to force you to pay a penalty.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
Penalty. Now, let me just, I've been accused of being conspiratorial on many different occasions. But let me tell you the rub with this universal single-payer healthcare thing. That the progressives, and when I say progressives, this is referring to the ideology that people maintain this position that ascribe to. By requiring every citizen to have health insurance that is paid for by the government just effectively created its way to get itself involved in every detail of your life. And let me explain to you how that happens. If the government is responsible for taking care of your body, then they have the wherewithal to dictate to you what you can and cannot do concerning your body.
Wow.
Right.
Through that one Trojan horse, the door is kicked wide open for the government to then come in and say, well, you know what? You can't eat these certain types of foods. Because if you eat those certain types of foods, you increase the possibility that we may have to spend money for you because you're sick and going to the hospital.
But people are willing to negotiate that away. One, because they don't think of it. It never occurs to them. And two, because they feel like, oh, that's so far-fetched. That's so unbelievable. One of the other things we talked about immediately after the show was death panels.
Yes.
Where now the government decides who's worth spending the money on to provide health care.
Yes. And
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mr. Futrell set his whole position up by saying that his relative, I'm going to affectionately refer to her as Mama.
Right.
Mama had cancer and Mama couldn't have treatment because Mama couldn't afford it. That hurts me.
Which is a sad.
It's a very
sad commentary.
Very sad
story.
commentary. But when we got off the air, I said, but the one thing in Mr. Futrell's discussion, he assumes that Mama is going to get treatment because they have single payer health care.
Right.
What most people don't understand, in single payer, all that means you have one source of payment for health care coverage. All right. You have single payer systems in England, Canada, and other countries around the world. What most people don't realize on the ground is that whenever it comes to any type of health treatment, these single payer systems have, which Sarah Palin, when she was saying, called a death panel.
Death panels.
Or
yeah.
I would say you have a panel of individuals who are quote unquote experts who do cost benefit analysis as to whether or not they will provide.
Decide.
Exactly. And the way they decide is that they compare the cost of the treatment to the prospective ability for the person who needs the treatment to be able to continue to pay taxes to the government.
Oh my, because essentially those taxes and your involvement or engagement in the community is what is paying for your health care.
So if I'm Mama, if I'm old,
bingo,
it could be like, nah, you about to die anyway. You're gonna tap out
Oh, my
soon, so
goodness.
we're not gonna put this money towards you.
bingo, which is why they will replace Mama's needed for cancer treatment with just giving Mama pain pills to
Hey, but
manage
Abe,
her
but Abe-
pain until she dies.
But that's in other countries, though, Abe. They don't have that in America.
Oh, but yes, they do. The death panels that Sarah Palin referred to was written in the Obamacare bill. When you have, that's why we cannot allow, this is America.
Come on
We
now.
believe that we care for ourselves. And let me go even further. Because the Bible tells us, for all of us who are Christians, and this is where your
Come on.
biblical
Make the
worldview
connection.
should conflict with public policies that do not adhere to Scripture. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 said, if any does not care for his own household, he is worse than an infidel.
Come on,
and instead of foisting the responsibility of caring for my household off until the government, I should stand on my biblical convictions and recognize it's my responsibility to care for my elderly loved ones.
Come on,
That's
man.
right.
I'm going
Come
to
on,
prepare for that. I'm going to plan for that. Instead of trying to make Courtney take care of my negligence and
Come
take
on.
money out of his pocket and go
Right.
get money out of the Addison household and go get money out of everybody else's pocket to take care of my parents, I'm going to
Wow.
prepare for my parents' elderly years.
Oh,
Come
wow,
on,
man.
There you go. Man, and that make
Oh,
look.
Lord.
We gotta think, people. We gotta have a biblical worldview. The people spewing all this
That's
stuff,
so
saying
good.
we're gonna do this, you're gonna get this free, you're gonna get that free. Oh, pump the brakes. Let's
the
really
brakes.
look at it, and you can see from what we're saying here, man, that's not true. And it's gonna hurt more than it help.
That's right. That's right, man. So you would have people. I mean, because you look at the first century church, and I'm not trying to whatever, but I'm saying if you look at who was being cared for, you're talking about the widows and the orphans. The presumption there was that they didn't have any family who could
Right.
take care of them.
Right.
That was the presupposition there. There is no family to take care of them. But look, I want to say we have bigger issues. I don't even know how you implement 1 Timothy 5:8 when you have so many people electing not to even have kids who can take care of them in their older years.
Bingo.
They are willfully choosing
Man.
to cut off a source of comfort and help and care in their elderly years for the love and the enjoyment, the pleasure of right now.
And look, and this is a little off of what we're talking about now, but I'm going back to this Obamacare. I'm thinking about Planned Parenthood. Why do we need Planned Parenthood if all that stuff's supposed to be, covered?
Wow.
Why do you
Right,
need Planned?
right.
Why do we have to keep funding this?
Right,
Right.
right.
What is Obamacare
Talking
doing?
about women's health and all of this stuff.
What is
So
Obamacare doing?
Yes. Yeah.
But you make a great point about the not having kids. Like, who's going to take care?
Wow.
You know?
That's why when we choose a course of life that does not fully integrate the counsel of the Lord through his holy word, we are the ones who suffer.
Man.
Wow.
Come on, man.
We
Wow.
suffer. We don't realize when we cut off the blessing that is the fruitfulness of the womb, that we
Amen.
subject ourselves to be dictated to by others when we may not be as strong as we would want to be.
Revitalizing the spirit, restoring our community. Urban Family Talk.